Hello, welcome to another interview. I'm Debra, Sofia and Magdalene. I'm here with Dee Twentyman, and we're delighted to have Ellen Currie with us again to talk about limiting beliefs today, because limiting beliefs hold us back in so many areas of life and affects everything that we do. And Ellen is somebody who has overcome many beliefs that other people have had about her. And I'd just like to invite you, Ellen, to share if you can just sort of briefly explain about your background and the qualifications that you have in this area, and then about limiting beliefs and what your take on it is, and how can people overcome these beliefs?
Right, I'm delighted to. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, I had a closed head and spinal cord injury on the Mexican border back in 1986. I was 30 years old, and they could not airlift me. I was a quadriplegic. They couldn't airlift me to San Diego, and the hospital was a tiny little hospital. And so they actually thought that I was going to die, that I wouldn't make it, because they couldn't reduce the inflammation. They couldn't, I'd had a brain injury. They didn't have, it was a small hospital. And so the prognosis was she was going to die. And if she lived, she would be a quadriplegic for the rest of her life. Well, I didn't accept that prognosis, obviously. I was like, even though I couldn't talk and couldn't move, it was like, I don't think so. But so I spoke to my body and I got out of the wheelchair a year later. It took me a whole year. But on this journey, I learned that we have belief systems, right? We're told things from when we're very young. We don't even remember the stuff that we're told. We don't remember the things that happen in our environment. We might have a few, usually traumatic things that we remember, or a few very high emotionally charged states and conditions that happened that we would remember, but most of it we don't remember. We don't remember our conditioning. We don't remember most of the things that are said to us. And we learn by stimulus, right, in our environment. We don't even realize we're processing stimulus all the time. When I had my accident, one of the things that they didn't understand at the time was when I would tell them, I can hear what is happening 3 rooms away. I can hear the hum of a refrigerator. I can hear the paper rustling next door. They didn't understand that, because what had happened in my brain, it had opened up. And the filtering system, because we have to filter things out in the way where we live, because in our environment, because if we didn't, we would go crazy. You can't have all of this stimulus coming at you all the time. You have to be able to put it. So our body does this automatically. We don't even realize it. You have absolutely no idea that your body is receiving information from all around. It's the energy field. We know now it's the energy field, but your body is receiving information in the energy field that you're not aware of. So it's the same thing with belief systems. We absorb belief systems even if we don't talk about them. We get them. Primary ones were from parents or whoever was your primary caretaker. We get it from the environment we live in, from the information that we had access to. Everything is absorbed. We're absorbing. I mean, you think you're just like having this like little, even now with me, you think you're just having this conversation with me. You're listening to me. No. In your environment, there's a whole energy field that is sending information to you, but you're not tuned to it. You're not hearing it. You're not understanding it. And you're not seeing it. This is going to change. This will change. But so back to what I was saying about limiting belief systems, same way in the energy field. So the prevailing ones, limiting belief systems that I had in my life was I came from a working class family. You never amounted to anything more than what the station of your parents were. That was it. Your father was an iron worker. Guess what? You were going to be an iron worker. That's what you would be told. You know, we I'm talking about working class. It's different if I'm back in America, or it's getting a little bit different today. But back then, the church, powerful. Doctors, right up there beside God. If they said something, that was out of God's mouth, right? Priests, anybody was in authority, and the distance between you and their authority could not be questioned. Money, we were not. When I was growing up, we were taught about money that you weren't supposed to want it. You weren't supposed to want to be more than what you were. You were too big for your boots. Who do you think you are? Why do you want to be different? It was always about keeping everybody the same. You know what I mean? Don't allow anybody to have aspirations. I remember, and it's so funny how life does these things to you. I remember being about 8 or 9 and saying, I want to be a brain doctor. Now, we didn't say neurologist because we didn't use them words. If they were out there, they weren't happening in our household. They didn't use those words back then. So I said I wanted to be a brain doctor because I was always my 2 biggest things when I think back to when I was young was I was fascinated by love. I didn't understand love because I could see where was the love in the world, because I was not raised up, I was slapped up. I got a clatter around my head for questioning anything, for not doing. My parents could have an argument, I got the clatter, right? My parents argued. One of the belief systems I had that affected me was that my parents argued about money all the time. And the reason was my father was the kind that you could go to him and say, oh, I want to go to the movies, and it would be 6pence, right, to go up to the old Odeon. And he'd say, oh, go to my pockets and take out what you need. He never said, my mother, if she 6pence, you couldn't pry it out of her hand. She wouldn't give it to you. You had to walk everywhere. There was no such thing as getting sweeties when you went to the movies. My father would say, so there was always arguments in our house. My father was very generous. My mother held on to everything. Now I'm not saying that what my mother did was wrong, because my mother was compensating for my father. My mother was compensating for the fact that my father could give the money away and she had to feed a family of 8 children and pay rent and everything else. So she had to hold on to the money because my dad would so gladly give it away. But I didn't understand that at the time, right? All I knew is they fought. They never talked about it. It was just a fight. And after the fight, I would get the brunt of it, right? It would be taken out on me. So what did I learn about money? What was the messages I learned about money? Money was equal pain. Don't have money. Don't. And so in my whole life, and money chased me. It really did. Money chased me. But I ran from it. I didn't want it. If I got money, I gave it away because not that I went around thinking, oh, this is painful. I didn't think that. It was unconscious. That programming was unconscious in me. I wasn't thinking about it. It wasn't until I'm going to say 2001. No, it was before that. 1999 or something like that, 2000. I had an epiphany. I had a breakthrough, and I realized my relationship with money was due to my parents fighting when I was young, and for me getting the brunt of it. It had nothing to do with me. It had nothing to do with money. I responded to money because I was responding to those claps around the head and the verbal arguments and stuff like that. So once I had that epiphany that money, there was nothing wrong with money, and that I should embrace it when it came to me, it flipped a switch in me. Then I pursued money. I was like, okay, I'm not going to get money. I mean, I owned houses and rental properties, but I let people stay in them free because I didn't have a proper relationship with money. I didn't understand it properly, but I changed that. But that was a belief system, you see. I had an unconscious belief system that affected my ability to understand money and the economy of money, which has changed now. We can have belief systems about where we're not, and it goes back to that old programming. Don't put your head above the herd because it will be cut off. It'll be don't step outside of yourself. Don't create a noise. Don't, like, I know when I'll tell you this, when I first started talking about how incredible I was and how magnificent I was and how amazing I was and how much I loved myself, I made everybody uncomfortable. It couldn't handle it. It couldn't handle it. We can say that stuff now, but years ago when I would talk like that, my sisters would say, Ellen, would you ever stop? Would you stop that? I'd get nudges, right? Because what's the common response? Who does she think she is? You know, why does she think she has to be amazing or wonderful? I am amazing and wonderful. We are all amazing and wonderful. We were created incredibly. We are the most amazing beings on the planet. We truly are. You know, the power that resides in us, if people would ever get a hold of this, they would no longer need anybody on the outside dictating anything to them, telling them how to behave, telling them how. Because when you know you are incredible and amazing and powerful, you don't go around doing things that harms anything, because you see everything else as amazing and incredible and powerful.
So Ellen, when this, like, the switch was flipped and you then started chasing money and you become very, very successful financially, what can you give us some steps of people? How do they identify their limiting beliefs and what do they need to do to change those?
Okay, here's what I would tell them: get out a pen and paper. Think about things in your life. Think about when you think about yourself and your abilities, what's the first thing that comes to mind in anything, right? When you think about, and we can go a level of 1 to 10, pick a level, 1 to 5 or whatever like that. Do you think that you are intelligent? Do you think that you are attractive? Do you think all of the things that make us up, right? That we receive messages from everybody else about, right? What is the first thing that comes to your mind? Do you think, I'm ugly, or I don't want to do that, or I do, what are the things that inhibit you from stepping out and doing something? Why do you think you cannot own a house or own properties or have a trading account or have the life that you want? Or for me, I'm not motivated by like jet set life or anything like that. What motivates me is I want to be able to I want to be able to go to countries that need developed and give water to a whole village. I want to do the only reason I pursue money is because I have whatever I need in my home, is to make a difference in somebody else's life. Can I buy them a course? Can I do something that changes their life? So I would put down everything that has to do with your environment and with your life. Like, what do you want to accomplish? Where do you see yourself? What is the gift that is inside of you? Because I believe that everybody has a gift inside of them. If they unwrap that gift, because it's always unwrapped in pain, whatever the most painful thing about your life is, you're going to find your gift in there. And what most people, they don't go to that place of pain because they get stuck in there because of limiting beliefs. They believe that if I uncover these things, that I won't recover from it, that I will collapse, that I can't breathe, that I can't do it. No, that's all a lie. On the other side of that pain is your gift. And that gift, I always say your gift makes room for you, right? If you will accept that, if you will unwrap your pain and look at it and just say, you know what, this isn't true, because they're all belief systems. It all goes back to limiting beliefs. Everything goes back. I didn't have the money that I could have had or when I was very young, because I had all these limiting beliefs that was unconscious in me, And the first thing is you have to start to investigate. You have to all the time, why am I reacting that way? When somebody says that, why is it causing that reaction in me? When I see something and I respond inside of myself that way, why is it causing that response? Why do I feel that way? What's causing me to feel that way? I'm at a place now with it that I constantly challenge all of my belief systems every few months. every few months. I don't just, I do it every few months. My global belief systems, what I believe about the world globally, and my individual, my environmental belief systems, why I believe the way I do. When I was growing up, I'm going to talk about me and my husband. When I was growing up, and I was like always clattered around a head and told I was stupid and I never did anything, even though I got A's in school. You know, my parents, because they didn't know any better, because they didn't have the knowledge. If they had known what they were doing, they wouldn't have done it. Nobody does. If you have knowledge about something, you don't do that thing, right? They didn't know. This is no blame on my parents or anything. They did the best with what the knowledge they walked in. I'm responsible for the knowledge that I walk in. You are responsible for the knowledge that you walk in. And so until we get new knowledge or we change our belief systems, I don't hold anybody responsible. They're only doing the best things they know how to do with the knowledge and the experiences and their frame of reference that they have. So when I was growing up, because of the way, I never had anybody tell me, well, you're beautiful and lovely and you're amazing. And they didn't talk that way in the first place, right? So I never had that. I had to do that for myself. But I married a man who was like a mirror of my father, you know? He talked to me the same way, and he was physically abusive to me too. So then I divorced him and I married again. But what did I marry? I married somebody else, who not abusive. John is a great guy, but he was not able to give me what I needed, you know, that stroking, that love. He never ever had that love talk to me that I wanted, that I was always looking for. That I believed, another belief system, right? That this comes from the outside, right? Belief system is that you're loved by somebody else first. We're always looking for love on the outside. We're looking for it from our parents, from our families, from our relationships, from our husbands, from our boyfriends, whatever it is. We're always looking on the outside for it. That's a belief system. Whereas the most important person is you to love yourself. It starts with you. And if we would teach this and we would walk in this, we would save so much emotional distress that people go through. Not because there's anything wrong with one person or another person, it's because we were not taught these things. We were not taught love yourself, because when you truly love yourself, you have boundaries automatically come into place that you don't allow anybody to cross. You have boundaries that because you respect yourself. You know, you don't ever breach them because you think that that person will love you. You allow them to be abusive or emotionally or physically or psychologically abusive to you. So I would always be looking for John. I would dress and I was a good looking young woman, right? I would always be dressing myself. I was always looking for him, not anybody else. I didn't care what anybody else thought. I wanted him to think it. I wanted him to say these things to me. You know, you're beautiful or you're lovely or whatever like that. And he couldn't do it because of his childhood, because of his emotional upbringing and things that he didn't get. He didn't know how to do that for me. So, and of course, then when you do something and you're expecting something from somebody, because unmet expectations, if you have an expectation and it's unmet, it leads to disappointment, right? You're disappointed. How many times do we keep going back to the same person with this expectation and they can't meet it, you know? Well, I'll put another lipstick on, you know? Do you like this outfit? They don't meet it because they're not able to. So you end up with all these unmet expectations and you keep going back looking for a change, and it's not happening. It's not happening. So I had to learn to sweet talk myself. I had to learn to dress up and say, my God, you're just gorgeous, aren't you? You're beautiful. You're such a delight to hang out with. I started to tell myself these things. And once I started telling myself these things, I stopped looking to him. I didn't need it, because that place inside of us that we all have, that want love and acceptance and validity and significance and security, you know, these are all tremendously strong desires that people have. When we're looking to other people to fulfill them, they can't, because they're not able to. They haven't fulfilled it in themselves. I can do that with people. I can see people and I can give, you know, loads of love and validation and confirmation to people, because I understand. I have it for myself, so I see it in other people, you know? And so I'm really in a good place with this. And I know it goes back to its limiting beliefs, but I would just start going back to what you asked me. I would say all that you want, our security, our validation and everything about us, right? Because do we look good? Are we fulfilled? Are we financially successful? Are we healthy? Is our relationships good? All of those things. What is it that rises up in you? Don't think for the good answer. Actually, what is the truth of this? What is the truth of how we feel about ourselves? And where did we get that belief system from? Because it's not the truth. If it's not a good thing, it's not the truth. That's something that somebody else has put on you. And so I'd strip away all of those. I'd start stripping away all of those negative. They're always going to be negative. They're never going to be positive. Not that you can't have positive, I don't mean that, but the things that don't validate us, they're going to be negative things. You're never going to be good enough. You're never going to have that. Think about the thoughts, the circular thinking that goes on in people's heads. Because I change my thinking, but people, this 24-hour-a-day thinking that you're not good enough, that you won't make it, that something will happen, that you're always in a state of anxiety in your brain because you can't have peace in those areas. Change that. Change that circular thinking, that circular thoughts.
Ellen,
there's so much.
How would you recommend that people change those circular thoughts? How do you do it? Because I know there's different techniques for doing that. What do you do?
It goes back to self affirmations, right? I can do anything. I'm amazing. There's nothing I can't do. Even in my dreams, I have reached this place now, even in my dreams. I dreamt one time there was this mountain and everybody was at the bottom of it with all this climbing gear, right? And the mountain was made of ice, right? It was just a sheer, huge mountain, ice. Nobody could get up it. Their gear was no good, didn't get up it. They could not climb the mountain. They brought experts in. Nobody knew how to climb over this mountain. And so I looked at the mountain and the voice said to me, you climb the mountain. And I said, but they've got experts. They've got climbing gear. They've got everything. They can't climb this mountain. How can I possibly climb this mountain? How can I? And I knew instinctively at the other side of the mountain, there was something great was there, right? But I didn't know what it was. And so the voice kept saying to me, climb the mountain. I kept saying, I don't know how. And I'm putting my hands on the ice, right? On the mountain. And you slide down. You can't get a hold. Their grip gear couldn't get into it. So I'm standing there looking at it and saying, how do I do it? How do I do it? And the voice said, put your mouth on the mountain. And so in my dream, I'm moving up onto the mountain. I'm putting my mouth on the mountain. I said, and what next? I've got my mouth on the mountain. And it says, speak to the mountain. Speak to the mountain. And so I'm speaking to the mountain. And as I'm speaking to the mountain is dissolving. Like there's holes, it's dissolved. There's footholds that are starting to come. So I put my hand in and then I go up and I speak to the mountain. And I get another hole. I get up the mountain. I climb the mountain. The ice melts when my breath comes on it and I'm speaking the word to it. And I know that this was a visual thing for me to say. The dream represented, speak to your problems. Speak to the issues. Speak to it, right? You don't need all the other stuff. Just speak to it. And so that was one of the things I learned, was to speak to it, was to always be speaking the goodness into something, speak the goodness into everything. It's very hard because we live in a negative world. We live in a negative environment. We think about the world as it can be very negative, and people can be very negative, and they can just like, it's all the time. You're trying to get up, they're just like waiting there to knock you down again. You'll never be able to do that. That's not going to work. How are you going to fix that? And then other things happen that seem to be out of your control through societal governments and everything else like that. But we can change our reality. It's not about changing everybody else's reality, because we have to work on ourselves. It really does start with ourselves, with us, changing that, speaking to it, speaking and saying the good things. So if I've examined my belief systems about something, then I will start talking positively to it. I will start putting so many affirmations. I used to write out, I have pages of it. I am amazing. I am healthy. I am wise. I am wealthy. I would just write out. Do you remember years ago, we'd write 100 lines or something? That's what I would do. I would all the time be flooding back into my unconscious, so that now when something happens in my life, I don't go to that, all this stuff over there. Inside of me, it's like a well of living water that comes up, and I just start to think and speak good things.
Perfect.
I'm just thinking, from how you've been speaking there, is there, say, 2 things that somebody could do, for instance, who are listening to what you're saying, two things that can help them to identify their own limiting beliefs about being successful or being where they want to be? Two things that they can actually kind of hold on to and say, right, I'm going to do that thing. What 2 things would you say that they could do to eliminate their beliefs? Beliefs, you know, because we, like you said, we do get them from a long time ago, and if we are holding on to them and we don't, the subconscious, we don't actually sometimes know that we've got these limiting beliefs. So is there a couple of strategies that you can give people to how to actually recognize that that is a limiting belief and I'm going to do this about it or that about it?
Okay, so if you believe that you're not going to be successful, do you mean that when you say successful, are you talking about in a business sense, financial sense?
Well, successful in if they're dissatisfied with something in their life, say they're dissatisfied with their working life or anything that they're dissatisfied with that has held them back. So if I'm, you know, some of the limiting beliefs we've got is I'm not worthy of this, I'm not good enough, I don't have the capacity to do that, I don't have the resources. There's lots of limiting beliefs that we all hold. And it could be one in particular. All the others might not be there for them, but there might be 1 or 2 that are really, really there, but they don't even see them.
Right, because that can be the root one.
Yeah, that could be
always something is at the root. Is at the root of something.
How would people identify that particular belief or those beliefs? What would you say they could do to identify their beliefs to help them overcome them?
Okay, so there are different beliefs that come from, I would say the biggest thing that people have is the rejection, that people are afraid of rejection. They're afraid they won't be accepted. It goes back to that, to writing out. If you want to be successful, is to writing out what is it that you want. And then so you've written out, so out here is what you want, right? But in here is all the things that surface that say, well, you're never going to have that. I would write out, well, what is it that rises up inside of you? You know, if you're never going to be successful, what is the overriding thing that pops up in your head that stops you from thinking that you can be successful? You know, it could be that because it never turns out, because something always goes wrong, because it doesn't matter what I do, something always stops it from coming to fruition. There's something always, right, all of those will always be in the same place, right? And they usually, if that's a root thing, like it never works out, nothing ever goes my way, this is always, it's meant for somebody else, because it doesn't matter how many times I try or how much I want it, it always falls apart. Something always happens to stop it from coming to pass. So they're all belief systems, right? They're all limiting belief systems. They're stopping you from having what it is that you want. So I would go back now and I'd say, okay, so what is the things that happen that make me think that it will always be this way? So I would write these things out, right? What is the internal talk that is happening? I would write out my internal talk. You have to be able to go back to that place though, you know, of the internal talk. So you have to think, the best thing to do is to think of when something went wrong. And so what was the internal talk that stopped you from accomplishing what you wanted, you know? And then reprogram. And that's it totally is. It's like you have to take that programming out by reprogramming and starting to say, no, I am going to be successful. I have all the qualities that will make me successful. Now list out the qualities that make you successful, that could make you, that you have, that you know. See, there's this other part of you that knows you want it, right? Write out those things, why you want what you want. Always make your why more bigger than why you can't. All the can'ts and no, don'ts, and make your why of what you want so much bigger. Because once you have defined, most people don't even know what it is that they want, first of all. They really don't. They think they want this because but what they don't really know is that's not what you want. You know, they say, oh, well, I want to have money, but they don't know why they want to have money. They think they want to have money to have nice things and everything like that. But no, because that lasts like a 5-second thing. When you can buy whatever you basically want, that doesn't last. Your why has to be so much bigger than just having nice things. But if we want to say, well, because I want to be able to pay my rent and I want to be able to do other things, then here's what I did. When I couldn't pay $250 in rent, I mean, when I was struggling to pay $250 in rent, I was really struggling. My husband left and I had all the children. And so I wrote out all of the good things about me, all of the things that I knew that were true. You know, I wrote out all of those things that I knew that were true. And then I thought about, what do I want? And I thought, at the time, if I had $10,000 a month, that was the end of everything. I would not need any other income. That would, if I could get $10,000 a month, that would solve every financial and every other problem that I had. $10,000 a month. I didn't, and so then I started to make lists. Okay, what can I do to change my circumstances in my life, right? I can make myself healthy. I thought about what would my life look like at $10,000 a month, right? And so I said, well, I can become healthy. I can go to school and get degrees. I wrote out all a list of all of these things, and then I broke them down again. My had lists, right? So that I broke them down into chunks. I can do this today, right? This is what I can do. If all I can do is go to the local university and get the catalog for the classes upcoming and talk to to somebody in the administration office about how I could apply to go to school, if that's all I can do to get to my dream of getting a degree, that's what I'm going to do today. I learned never put things off. I learned that the hardest thing on my list to do today was the one I was going to do first. That was what I was going to do first, because it's too easy to do all the easy stuff and leave the hard stuff. But the hard stuff is what makes the breakthrough all the time. Doing the hard one today. That's what makes a breakthrough. That's what gets us there. And so eventually I had $10,000 a month, but I didn't realize that the universe didn't care whether I said 10,000 a month or $1 million a month. It didn't pay attention to that. I could have easily, but my limiting belief system was that 10,000 was everything. You know, if I could get to $10,000 a month, I had it made. I didn't need anything else. Well, I surpassed $10,000 a month years ago. You know, and so now my horizon has expanded into what I want and why I want it, you know. But so I would do things like that.
Ellen, thank you so much for sharing. That's really valuable golden nuggets there for us and for everybody else who's watching this. We've run out of time, so I want to say a big thank you to you. We've got some real important information there about your limiting beliefs, so write them out. You know, look at what is really driving you and where did that come from, and get really clear on what it is that you want to create. Write it out. How do you feel about that? And get conscious about your thoughts. And have fun manifesting. Dream big, because as Ellen says, the universe doesn't matter. It doesn't pay attention to whether you're asking for 10,000 or 1 million or 10 million.
Right.
So
absolutely. But I didn't have anybody tell me that.
Yeah. So thank you for
Yeah.
joining us. Thank you, Dee, for your questions, and bye everybody for now. We'll see you again on another interview.
Bye.
Bye-bye.